I did all these cool things from a TV and film perspective, but drugs and alcohol were quietly like building up their team around me to eventually like take over everything. And I became addicted to crack cocaine. And, you know, within in a really short amount of time, like I sold everything, traded everything, and you know, burnt every bridge and built it up and burned it down again, and ended up going on an 11-year run that would bring me to that morning in jail.
Hey, what's up, guys? So today's episode is brought to you by our proud sponsor, Elevated Silence. This is one of my favorite sponsors, not only because Jim Hood is a very dear, close friend of mine. He's been on this podcast several times, but because I am an avid user of this product. As you guys know, I love to go to the range. I love to train civilians and law enforcement, and this is the suppressor that I use each and every time I go to the range. I can tell you this, every time I bring it out, I get nothing but compliments of just how quiet it is. You know, people are always looking for these differences in suppressors. You know, they want it lightweight, but with lightweight, it's probably going to be a little bit louder. The heavier the weight, it's going to be quieter. And I think Jim has found the perfect combination of both, which is why I love this suppressor. He makes everything from 22 to 300 Norma. So if you guys are looking for a suppressor for your rifle or pistol, be sure to check Elevated Silence out. Use the code SMS15 to get 15% off. And also he has some awesome merch for these red hats and this red shirt right now. If you purchase it, a percentage of the proceeds goes to the American Suppressor Association, which will defend your rights to be able to use suppressors as you should, as any American should. All right? Thank you, and God bless.
Welcome to Shoot Me Straight. Dave Fields. Eddie Gallagher is back. We're finally back together in the same room.
Ebony and Ivory.
Yeah. And I have a good friend today, Nathaniel Blackburn, which is, you know what I was thinking? How crazy if I could have seen us be here when we first met.
Dude.
We're in Vail or Beaver Creek area.
Arrowhead. Yeah.
And at a buddy's ski out place. And Nathaniel comes up one night. We're hanging out, and I remember Robert telling me, as you're on your way up there, he was like, "Man, he's in recovery, but like," and I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. I don't know if I believe. I don't know. You know, he may be relapsing or something like that." And you ended up getting honest and being like, "Man, I've been struggling in long time ahead. Man, you've not just been sober, but I've got to see you get married, have kids."
Yeah.
I mean, pretty crazy story.
Man, it's first of all, thank you guys for like allowing me to come on this space and be here with you. I was also thinking about today when I was coming down here. You know, that was 10 years ago.
Golly,
it was 10 years ago, and I still didn't really know Jesus. I kind of did, but didn't at that point. Yeah. But you played a massive. God used you that night. Which I just met Dave, and I was coming into this situation with our mutual friend, and I really had felt like God was encouraging me to kind of give my life to recovery and help other men, because I was now finally sober, and I'm sure we can get into it. It took me 11 years to become willing enough to say yes to God, and in that time, I remember coming up to the house that night, and I stopped on the side of the road and I prayed. Which I never had done really in any kind of capacity before going to see a friend. But I just remember like praying like we did before this podcast. Yeah. Like, man, like, God, man, thy will be done. Like, help me be me in this time. I don't even know who me is. You're right. Like, I'm terrified of what my life looks like, but I know that apart from you, I'll go into this time with Robert and Dave and try to earn favor, try to get acceptance, and I just don't want to do that tonight. You know, thy will be done. And I remember sitting in that meeting with you guys, and I came in there thinking I was going to present this business idea for them to bring what they were doing in Dallas to Vail, Colorado for recovery. You know, and Dave, I'd never met, is sitting there listening to my story, and I'm kind of telling my story for maybe the first time I'd ever really told it. And so kudos for sitting through that probably mess of a story that I told, you know. But then, you know, and I'm like, yeah, so at the end of the day, man, I think you guys should open one of your treatment centers here in Vail, man. We're all a mess, and I'd love to work for you. you know, and there's that dead silence, you know, and in that silence, Dave just looks at me and goes, man, you just need to move to Texas. and when he said that, I knew that I was going to Texas and I hated it, but also knew it was the right thing. Like, and I didn't know at that time I would go, but I knew at that time I would go, if that makes sense. Like, I would never, no offense, Texas, I would never move to Texas from Vail, Colorado. Ever.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody ever has done that, right? Like, I'm the first one to do it. But that was God, like, that was God using you in that moment, man. And
Planting that seed.
dude.
Yeah.
And then I think I moved like a month later. And I only knew Dave and I knew Robert and his wife.
Yeah.
But in Texas is where I met Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, it's where he put me through
The desert.
boot camp. I mean, like, hardcore that would bring sitting full circle today here. Not full circle because I'm still in process, as we all are. But, like, I am not that guy.
Yeah.
I'm so far from that guy. Like, my wife, who never knew that guy, but, like, to sit here today with you and you, like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
But to be a guy who, like, is talking about Jesus, what? Like, to be a guy who leads a ministry, what? Like, it just makes no sense to me. And all at the same time, like, I wouldn't change anything. Like, this is insane. Like, he is so forgiving, and I am so not worthy, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, because none of us are.
That's why God has grace.
Yeah, like, and I don't even really know what that means yet, right? Like, there's so much there.
Unconditional love.
Dude.
Yeah. It's the way I explain it to. It's like because I think people always have a hard time understanding God's grace or like the way that he feels about us, especially when you start walking down that path. And the only way I can describe it is like the way like we feel about our children, right? Like my kids, even if they did wrong, I'm still like going to be like, they could do the most vile, evil thing. I am still going to love them the same way I've loved them since they were born. And I will still be with them and try and help them out. And like, I think that's what God does for us.
Yeah, times 1,000.
But it's times a million. You know?
Yeah. And I think like because I know how bad I am, or I think, right? Because I've got the first row seat to my life. I'm the one that really knows, like, and I don't really know. I think I know how selfish I really am because I've seen it, I've lived it, I've experienced it full hand. I've been the guy who is, I became a thief, a liar, a cheat, like all these things. And so, like, when I look at the case against Nathaniel, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty darn damning. And it's just like trying to say yes, that God sees that and still accepts me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, whoa. And because of having kids, like, I get a taste of kind of what that is.
Yeah.
And it's still so like,
It's wild.
it's so difficult until it's not to say yes and continue to say yes to God.
Mm-hmm.
About like join us on the process, but just know it's like there's no, for me, I'm learning and have learned there's no arrival point. Like I used to think.
No, but I think there's levels of demarcation. I mean, when you look at today, like all those days of you calling me 10-stepping stuff.
Totally.
Like, the stuff you were dealing with back then.
Dave was my sponsor, FYI, for a little while.
Yeah. The stuff you were dealing with back then to what today. I mean, now you see the fruit of it years later.
Yes.
You're living in a whole different realm.
Whole different realm that is still a realm of change, of invitation into change, of the fine tuning of the instrument in a lot of ways, right? Like sanctification, this biblical religious term, is real. Like the invitation is, come with me, son. I'm going to show you what you need to die to today.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard.
It doesn't look pretty.
No, it doesn't look pretty. And I think, for me today on this side of my faith, while I started the ministry that I started some years ago, is that, like, we're all asleep at the wheel, and I say that, including myself, that the invitation to sanctification is so hard because it is a constant self-evaluation with the creator of all things of my insufficiency in life, and how to get out of the way to give my wife what she really needs to uplift her, that is contrary to what my flesh really wants or what I really want. And And the world is so loud in the West, and there's so many distractions, and there's so many, and they're not necessarily nefarious in nature. They're just like the enemy, which I think the church doesn't talk about that great either, is that there's a real spiritual battle at hand that we just can't see, touch, or feel until we can. But the volume of everything is just so loud, and the responsibility that, you know, if we're not careful, if we're not surrounded by good brothers that God uses to help us stay awake in the battle, then we just fall asleep at the wheel, you know, and I'm operating then out of this place of salvation, not sanctification, but I'm missing the invitation from Jesus in a daily way to like grow and then be used for the kingdom. And so there is demarcation, right?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to say it.
What you just said right there, I could never picture you saying. Like, I would think today, I would think it was an AI, you know, seeing you say something like that. Take us, like, did you grow up in church? Like,
No. Well, yeah. So, man, childhood for me was, I thought for the longest time really good, you know, until I kind of look backwards and later in life get forced to look backwards at my childhood. And the reality is like I have, you know, big T trauma in my childhood that I downplayed the majority of my life and never addressed until later. My mom left when I was really young. I grew up in Virginia. I always thought I was like 3 or 4 years old, but I'd later find out I was 7. And so I don't remember her.
Wait, what?
I was 7 when my mom left, but I always thought I was 3 or 4 because I don't remember her.
Okay. All right.
Right?
I thought you were like saying, I thought I was 4 when I was 7.
Yeah.
Like the whole time I was like,
Told you.
now, how does that work?
Well, it was a night of mushrooms.
Yeah, I
and
was like, how early did you start taking psychedelics?
Yeah, young, not that young, but young. But I say all that to say that like her leaving had an impact on me that I still don't fully understand as a man today, that I'm still trying to unpack. I was molested multiple times by a creepy neighbor when I was around 5 that I never told anyone until I got sober. And then my dad raised me by himself. And what I remember of my father is my dad was a really great father, and he loved me, but he died when I was 15. And so I have this childhood of unaddressed abandonment, trauma, and all these different things. And like today, when I tell people that my childhood, what I remember is being the scaredest kid in the room, people that knew me growing up are like, no, you weren't. You were funny, you were athletic, you were, you know, life of the party. And I'm like, man, yes, because that's what you wanted to see. Like I kind of found a way to be what you needed me to be, so you would either leave me alone or give me what I needed.
Yeah, you built up that ego.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it was building up in me already, right?
Yeah.
And self-reliance served me well for a very long time. And so I say all that to say, when my dad died, his mother, my grandmother, took over custody of me, and she was probably not the person that should have done that. She was just not prepared to do that. But she was a believer. And so my experience of God before her taking over was holiday church. So we'd go on Easter and Christmas to my grandmother's church. That was it. There was never
Call them creasters.
Yeah, like never. I didn't pray, or not really. It just wasn't a thing. My mom would later tell me, I got reunited with my mom in my 20s, which is another podcast in and of itself, the hell that was, the difficulty that was. She's not with us anymore. But she would tell me later in life that she gave my life to Christ when I was a baby. And she always talked to me about Jesus. I just don't remember any of that. So my grandmother was a follower of this couple named Jim and Tammy Faye Baker. They were TV evangelists back in the 80s on this thing called the PTL Network, and I think there's like documentaries about them.
They made a movie about them.
Yeah. So they were from what I remember is they were the ones that were sitting in gold chairs saying, "Listen now, for $4.99 weekly, we'll give you the prayer of prosperity," you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that was my introduction to God. I mean, I'm a 15-year-old kid who hadn't even cried at his dad's funeral, had still never told anyone that he was molested, was terrified and unsure of the world as it related to just everything. But no one was telling me it wasn't. I don't want anyone to hear me say that I'm blaming my life that you will learn about on any of that stuff. I'm just learned over time that messages about me formulated in my mind and in my soul
Yeah.
about me that just weren't true based off the trauma. And I would later become a man that reacted out of that trauma and still can, apart from God. But I saw the hypocrisy in this TV evangelism in my grandmother, right? I saw this like hellfire and brimstone stuff that I was a good kid. Like I wasn't perfect. I was still a kid, but I was a good kid that was forced to then go to church 3 days a week and was told that, that I was going to hell or my father was rolling over in his grave if he saw the way I was responding, which wasn't a negative way. Like I was just a 15-year-old kid that was.
What was the way you were responding that they would even bring that up to you? Was it, out of just like disbelief, like, dude, this doesn't seem right? Like,
yeah, there was a questioning
yeah.
to it, right? Like there was, my dad at 15, like my house was the house to sleep over. My dad would grill steaks and shrimp. He was a ladies' man.
Heck yeah.
My birthday's on Halloween, so we'd have a birthday party and he'd let us go to Blockbuster and get like 7 horror movies, right?
The best time of our lives. We just didn't
best
know
time
it.
of our lives. Pumpkinhead 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
And so I had this kind of like freedom. He was treating me like a young man, and I was played varsity football as a freshman, so I kind of had these things that were cool, and he'd let me go out, but I didn't, just different. And then she comes in, and it's like a lockdown, church 3 days a week, all these different things, and so I would get frustrated. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why can't I go out with my friends after the football game? Just little things like that. And then she would be like, the way you're speaking, She, and I don't want to disparage her. She's not here anymore, and I know she loved Jesus, and she was great. She didn't have the tools I have today. My grandmother was the mother of 8 kids. My dad's dad died when my dad was 4. So my dad is the oldest of 8. He became the pseudo father to all these other kids, and they came out of like 4 other men. That none were in the picture when I was a kid. So my grandmother has always been this woman that I knew my whole life without a husband. Never knew that my dad's 7 brothers and sisters were from 4 different men. Right? So in retrospect, it's easy to look in the rearview mirror and go, she was doing the best she could with what she had. Right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want this to come off as her, she planted some seeds about God that would maybe kind of grow and help me a little bit. But from what I saw through the lens that I had at that time was like, hey, God's a scam. It's all about money. And man, the world's kind of crappy based off my limited experience. No one's coming to save you. It's up to you, right? And that's like where I said, okay, and like graduated at 17 and went to college and was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I never went back.
I think that's pretty common. That's how I was growing up. I grew up, my dad was a strict Irish Catholic. We'd go to church every Sunday. Yeah. And I remember like being around, that age, like 13, 14, 15, and realizing like, dude, this is all just like a scam. Yeah. Like, we go to this church every Sunday, and we act like we're like the most perfect, happy family, and so does everybody else that comes here. Even though like what I just witnessed coming here is the opposite, right? But then also, I would watch.
Shut the fuck.
Right.
Yeah.
What?
But and then I would come home at night just stoned out of my mind during high school and watch Benny Hinn or whatever.
Yes.
And I remember watching that, and even then I was like, who are these idiots who are going up there and acting like they're healed from him because they gave him, it blew my mind. Because even then I was like, how can people be fooled by this?
Totally. And
that's when I was like, and I just had the view of like, God and religion it's manipulated to get people to do certain things.
Yes.
And that's when I was like, I believe in God, but I'm done with all this.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Believe in God, but almost done with the church. The church is disingenuous.
Yeah, and then from there I just was like, I didn't go to church when I left the house, and but I still if you ask me, I'm like, yes, I believe in God, but I had no relationship with him.
Yeah. And I think too that this is hard to say, but I think a lot of people could connect with this. I think if church as an institution, right, the building and the places that you actually go on Sunday, which we all know is not the church. The church is actually us, the body, the people. Mm-hmm. But if churches themselves were more honest,
yes,
with like, hey man, we're a mess. but come and join us in your mess, and we're going to walk together and figuring this out. We don't have it figured out. Like, actually, when we became believers, we actually see more how much we don't have it figured out. And let's stop pretending on Sunday everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because like, that kept me away from all that for a very long time, because I knew everything wasn't okay with me as the life progressed. And I'm like, well, I can't go into that place because they're all buttoned up.
Yeah, and it also prevents you from actually being honest and open at church and being like, hey, I'm doing this, or my kid's, having trouble with this, or because then it's nothing but judgment. It's like nobody's there to help you. Yeah. Everyone's there to be like, ooh, okay, God bless you, but now we know something about you that we're going to go gossip to everybody else about. Yeah.
This should be like the trauma unit. Like church should be like where we're all kind of like, hey man, look at my wounds. I'm here. I need help, and I just it's not. And please, this isn't I want to make sure that people listening, this is a broad brush I'm painting. I'm sure there are many churches that are killing it and have this vulnerable culture and all. Like, I think as a whole, like, my experience
this is your and that's like I said, I had a very similar growing up. It doesn't mean that's the way it is.
Right. And so didn't have really a good example, or at least if it was shown to me in a good way, I didn't receive it that way. And so I just remember launching into college, like not knowing if I believed in anything. And
with a lot of trauma and
not even thinking it. I didn't know any of that. Like, I would find out in my 30s that I lived from these messages. I would find out in my 30s that I even had messages, right? Like, I would find out in my late 30s that some of those messages weren't just formulated by the trauma of my life, but probably formulated by some spiritual forces, right? Like, that there's spiritual warfare that comes into play with all these different things. And so, I had no idea. I mean, I know now today that, the life that was given to me after college through film, TV, notoriety, all these different things just quieted the internal voice that would eventually get loud enough to bring me to the edge of suicide. Like, drugs and alcohol masked that for a long time, and all these different things. And God was with me the whole time. And I'm not just saying that to say it. Like, I didn't recognize it, but I can see it today. Like, even going to VMI, like getting into Virginia Military Institute for a college. Like, I should have never gotten into that school, and that was for me, I needed that structure, and I thought I was going, military from there, only to get, cast on that TV show my senior year to throw a whole wrench in everything, But God never gave up on me, even though I willfully rejected him. Like, I would later find myself in California hanging my hat on trying to convince you out of your faith. Like, I saw it as a problem for you. Like, oh, buddy. Dude.
Like pity on you.
Yeah, like, man, come on, dude, listen.
You're one of them.
Yeah, there's something bigger than us. But the fact that you think you can identify it, it's kind of egotistical. Come over here, let's just believe in something that we can't see, touch, or feel, that's bigger than us, and there's energy and karma. And now, like, I think that sounds crazy, because I was just lost. And I fought for the wrong team for a very long time, unknowing that I was fighting for the wrong team.
Yeah. When you were in college on your senior year, how did you even figure out about the real world or get approached by it? Like, how was you get
we get into the meat and potatoes here.
Yeah, here we go. So for anybody listening to this, I was on the original reality TV series called The Real World on MTV.
What is it? Stop being polite and start getting real?
That's right.
Yeah.
7 strangers pick to live in a house. Dun-dun-dun,
hey, man.
dun-dun-dun.
I grew up on that.
Yeah. For those that are watching, you don't know, but I've signed 2 posters for Eddie.
Yeah.
It's so wild. Yeah, so my junior year in college, I got accepted into this overseas program. My first plane flight I'd ever been on was from London, or from DC to London, London to Prague. I didn't even know where Prague was. And I went to go live in Prague for 6 months with David Burns, who would end up getting on The Real World with me a year later. And so he and I had gone on this adventure. And on that adventure is where my eyes were open to the world being a bigger thing. While we were living in there, I mean, I'd never been on a plane. I mean, and I was 20 years old living in the Czech Republic in Prague, 8 years out of communism, right? So it was this beautiful place. It was untouched, and we had a lot of acid there, a lot of drugs. But one of the key moments of that time, I was living over there, one of the last nights in town, we were walking through Old Town Square, which is this really beautiful place. And Mission Impossible, the first one was filmed there. It's where the aquarium, and Tom Cruise breaks it open and goes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And we come around the corner. We were on the way to like the one English speaking bar in all of Prague, and we got stopped by this guy with like walkie talkies, and we kind of looked around the corner, and there's these big cranes and lights, and like, what's going on here? And the guy's like, "Oh, you speak English?" We're like, "Yes, you too." And back then, like, if you were over the age of 20 in the Czech Republic, you didn't speak English. It was still such a thing. So anytime you heard someone speak English, because I had to learn Czechoslovakian, like I still don't know it, and had to live there. And so anyway, we struck up a conversation. We're like, what's going on? They're like, oh, we're filming a movie. Like, oh, can we watch? And he's like, heck yeah, come on over here, just be quiet. And so they let us like walk around to what I now know is called Video Village. And it was Les Miserables with Claire Danes and Liam Neeson. They were filming in 1998 or whatever it was. And so we sat there and watched the final scene of the night, and it was Claire Danes doing something out of the window or something, and they said action, and she said a couple words, and they said cut, and they're like, all right, cool, that's a wrap, check the gate, and I was like, that's acting? Oh, I want to be an actor. Yeah, I remember like making that decision, and we got to go out later that evening with Claire and Liam, and like it was just kind of this star-studded experience that was just amazing. Yeah. And so anyway, I come back to my senior year at VMI, and I was Air Force, took my AFOQT, qualified for pilot school, and was going to be commissioned, and that was my track. And the navigator spot, I can't think that's what it was called. I don't remember exactly. I don't want to butcher that, especially in front of Eddie.
Believe me, you're fine in front of me.
I can't remember fully what the exact acronyms were. But while I was, finishing my senior year at VMI, and people won't understand this that are younger than 45, we didn't have cell phones. And at VMI, specifically in barracks, there was a payphone bank in the basement, which means there were all these like payphone booths, and that's where you went to make phone calls. And so, but if anybody called you, it went to the comptroller, and you got a handwritten note on your desk, right? And so every time you come back from class or from drill, you see how many messages you got, if any. You never really got messages because no one called anymore. We got letters, back then. Those are things that go in the mail for the young kids.
That you have to write with a pen
or
a pencil.
And put your address on it and put a stamp. Anyway, but we would get notifications that way. And so I came back from class, and there was a flyer on my desk. A flyer was kind of an Instagram post, right, of back then, right? And it was MTV will be in Richmond, Virginia doing an open call for MTV's The Real World. And I remember looking down on it, and I'd been thinking, how the heck do I go to Hollywood and be an actor after that experience? And I just remember looking at that going, man, I got a really messed up story. What if I use that and try to get on The Real World? Would that help me?
Hey, what's up, guys? So when I'm not doing the podcast, I'm doing a lot of traveling. I put on training all over the country for LE and civilians. I also travel a lot for my nonprofit, the Pipe Hitter Foundation. And as you guys know, travel, going back and forth can wear you down. But this past year, I have found the antidote. So let me put you on to Aquavita, Destin's premier IV therapy and oxygen bar. This place is owned and operated by a board-certified ER physician with over 23 years of experience, so you know your health is in good hands. Every IV drip is mixed to Board of Pharmacy standards and backed by CDC-level infection control. Whether you're dealing with a fatigue, a hangover, jet lag, stress, immunity issues, or even PMS, they've got custom vitamin drips and boosters tailored just for that.
When you go inside, the place is pretty awesome. It puts you at ease right when you go in there. They have comfy lounge chairs, which are perfect for singles or couples, full group sessions. And you can even book the whole space for bachelor or bachelorette parties, race day recovery, or wellness events. While you're in there, they go the extra mile too. They'll give you blankets, sleep masks, earplugs, aromatherapy oxygen, all complimentary. And the best part, every visit includes direct care from the physician and experienced RNs, all focused on fast, safe, and affordable wellness. So if you're in the Destin area, hit up Aquavita. Your body will definitely thank you.
Oh, yes, it will.
The rest is history. And that began the process. It was a 6-month process.
6 months?
6 months.
6 months to like try and get on that show.
Yes, you go to the open call, and you get to sit down with 2 directors, and they ask you a bunch of questions, and then you either get moved on to the next round or not. And each round became more aggressive from the questions.
Yeah, what type of questions were they asking, and how did they escalate?
Yeah, like I think in the beginning it was just like, tell me the craziest thing you've ever done, and I was kind of honest about that stuff, and I'd done some crazy things for a kid, and I think they saw that and moved me to the next round. And the second round, I would later find out Kira, the woman that was casting me, lived on Blackburn Avenue in Brentwood, California, and so she just pushed me through because my last name was Blackburn. To the third round. Third round, I end up, they send you a video camera, and they have you set it up, and they ask you questions live over a speakerphone, and you tape yourself and send it back. And over time, what I found out is there were therapists involved. There were,
Psychologists.
Yeah,
Like
man.
taking notes on the side.
I think so. It had to be, because there were 70,000 people apply, and they whittle it down to 7 people. And we were talking about this pre-roll. Like, people used to always ask, man, how real was it? And I just tell them it was 100% real. Like, they didn't need to manufacture anything back then, because they perfectly put us together and just lit a fuse.
Yeah.
You
So,
know?
like, during that interview process, do you think with the therapists and all that involved that you said, we're probably listening in on the answers or stuff and probably taking notes, like, for the people that weren't going to move on, they're probably like, this person seems pretty grounded and has, like, a good foundation, so that's going to make for a boring show. This person doesn't seem very stable in some very areas. Let's push him forward.
Totally.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, when you look at my season, so David, my friend who I went to college with, who's from, Southie, outside of Boston, and me were these 2, white kids that were already had a relationship. Well, they put us with one black guy, Steven, who was obviously homosexual, but had not come out of the closet. I mean, we knew that instantaneously. Who was also super insecure, and was like adopted into a Jewish family. Like, just kind of, like, you saw when we got to the house, like he walks in and meets us, and he's like, wait, you guys know each other? I mean, you see it. You see the wall in him immediately come up. So they knew that would create this
Drama or like,
totally.
yeah, which is
right
the
out of the
purpose.
gate, the whole purpose. And then there's, hey, let's get diversity and make it look like this and that, but we know this cattiness with this girl is going to be with this guy, and like, you see it. But today, and forgive us for creating the realm of reality TV, because of what's out there today is disgusting. But that's where it all started, and it just progressed.
I mean, if you think about it too, like, how cruel is it, especially for Steven, right?
Oh,
who
dude.
you knew when they were interviewing him, they're like, this dude is gay.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
because they probably could tell.
Totally.
But he hasn't come out yet.
Not
He's still
confident enough
trying
to
to
talk
hide
about
it.
Totally.
We're gonna get this to play out on this show and get
What if
the
he
get
actually comes out?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's the end state. It's like, let's get this poor guy to out himself on national TV.
Totally.
And it's like, dude, the cruelty and like that thought process, not thinking about each person as a human being, but just as a pawn to like, yep, well, we're going to use all of your trauma, all of you, to gain viewership.
Totally. And it was the Wild West, for at least from our perspective, like nobody knew what they had in what they were creating, because it was such a it was insane how big it was. Like, I had no idea.
Oh, yeah, because it was the first of its kind.
Totally. I mean, when I got off that show, like the first episode aired, and I was in Bermuda, the island, with my girlfriend at that time on a family vacation. And the day after it aired, I was mobbed on the beach in Bermuda, right? Like, not mobbed, but a lot of people were like, "Are you the guy from?"
Yeah, something you're not used to either.
No, but in Bermuda, like, well, and then I would later, find out that whatever, we were the second highest rated season of all time, and there was all this stuff, but you were like in 96 countries around the world, it was this thing. And a friend of mine who does a lot of this stuff still, I haven't talked to him in a while, but CT would say, his handle on Instagram or something is like famous for nothing, because we were we were granted access. That's like the best way I could tell people is like, overnight I was given access to all the things that I thought meant the world, like success. Like, it was like, here's money and here's fame, dude. Like, you are amazing, and by the way, here's people that I idolized were coming up to me. Like, my first big like celebrity experience that, like, I'll never forget. After the show, I wanted to pursue this career, and so I kind of stepped into asking people, what do I do to be taken seriously as an actor and all this stuff? And they're like, well, you gotta put in the work. You gotta go get into schools and do all these other things, or else you're just gonna be a reality guy that, blah, blah, blah. And so in the process of that, I needed to make money. And so I contacted MTV and said, hey, I want to host stuff. Like, what does it look like to become a host? And so they kind of told me to do some things and make some reels. Long story short, my first big hosting gig was in the MTV Music and Sports Festival, which I think was the prelude to X Games. And it was in Memphis in 1999, and it was the first time they ever had motocross televised, big air stuff. And they hired me to commentate the BMX freestyle competition with Ice-T. Okay. I grew up listening to gangster rap, man. And
Cop Killer.
Yeah, dude. But all that, and so I'm going to Memphis, and I got my badge, and there's a green room and this big tent, and I walk in, and there's Carmen Electra, and I'm like, oh my God, Carmen Electra. And then, over here's Carson Daly, and he and I had become friends because we did some stuff on MTV. And then I'm standing there, and I get a tap on my shoulder, and I hear, yo, 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 you the crazy white boy from the real world. And I'm like, I know that voice. Method Man, right? Like, I'm a Wu-Tang fan, like junkie, and I turn around and it's Method Man and Redman, and they're like, yo, dude, we love you on the show. And I'm like, I can't even say anything, and they're like, you like to get high? I go, yeah, and they're like, come on, man. And we go and we get in the van, and in a van, right? And DMX is sitting in the front seat. And so I'm in the front seat, and Meth and Red are behind me, and they throw a tape deck into the cassette player, and they just start freestyling, and they're passing a joint around. And I am like,
you're living the dream,
dude. Yeah, if I was in high school, I'd be like, what?
It was so cool.
Even now.
Coolest experience ever. And what's crazy about that is I would become buddies with Method Man because of we would kind of rotate around some of the same things. And I've shared this only one other time before. He was the first guy to say anything to me about my drinking and using.
Wow.
No shit.
Yeah,
you may have a problem if Method Man.
But it wasn't like, he called me out on some behavior. So like, we had hung out a couple times, and then some years happened between us hanging out, and the next time I saw him, I was deep into addiction at that point, right? So it was fast forward like 4 or 5 years and living in California, and I didn't realize how bad it was. But I remember there was a place on Sunset called Dublin's, and they had a VIP room on Monday nights. And if you went to the VIP room at Dublin's on Monday nights, you were going to see Ben Affleck, and you would see Leonardo, and you would see like all these people. And for whatever reason, the MTV Real World people were allowed to be in these places, right? Like, it's just so weird. But I remember going there one night and running into Meth, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. I'm like, oh my God, what's up? He's like, yo, what's up, dude? All that. And he's with Ja Rule, and they were partying. And I didn't have any money, but I wanted to party. And I remember being like, yo, what's up, man? Can you hook me up? And I think I didn't do it as way I thought I did it, right? You know what I mean? Like, because he's like, look at me, he's like, Nate, man, what happened to you? You're a mooch, man. You're becoming a mooch, man. You gotta
put 5 on that, man.
But he, and that was like shocking to me because he was right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like I was mortified and embarrassed, and I remember just never telling anyone that, you know. And then, you know, fast forward a few years, you know, I'd end up becoming homeless, right? Like, and lose everything and burn it to the ground for a decade, you know. But it, and you know, Eddie, thank you for pre-roll kind of reminding me, you know, as we talk about some of this stuff, there's a part of me that gets excited about it, you know, because there was so much fun and so many cool things that I got to do. And I got to be really careful not to kind of get pulled into glorifying some of that stuff in a way to take away from the reality of what it was doing for me. And for me, it was like, it was killing me.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it was feeding this space inside of me.
Do you think it worked for, I mean, you think about all the stuff going on inside of you. For a time, do you think it worked? Like it
Totally.
fixed that insecurity inside of you.
Yes.
It made you feel like you were someone. You weren't no one.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, beyond worked, right? Like, I think I didn't even know I was trying to quiet anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's
There's the
crazy.
lack of self-awareness.
Dude,
Yeah.
it was just like I had arrived at 21 years old. Like, all the insecurity of childhood that I never even had kind of dealt with, and like me wanting to be more than I already was and not feeling enough, and all of a sudden handed this platter of, man, you're more than enough. And by the way, here, let me open this VIP robe. Come on in.
Yeah.
You know, and it was like the seas parted for a long time, and money and all this stuff just muted, you know, this part of me that was crying out on the inside.
Well, it
just to be
fulfilled you
loved.
at the time for sure.
Totally.
But and don't like, I don't know how that feels because, you know, we've never been in that realm. But to like, from the outside looking in, it seems like that is enough for you. But then you have to constantly keep up that pace, that level of like, you know, I want to go out to all these events and I want to live this lifestyle, which drains you of not only your bank account but your soul.
Totally.
Right. And it just constantly wears on you, which then in the end, what you see with a lot of Hollywood people, it leaves them empty and broken. Yeah. Like, you look at Britney Spears or like, I mean, it's
Lindsay Lohan, like all
yeah,
that whole crew.
they're just, yeah. And I feel sorry, you know, you feel sorry for them because you're like, dude. And I just watched, which I don't know if I recommend watching it, but we watched Stoop to a New Low the other day, watched the Charlie Sheen documentary.
I did too.
Holy cow, dude. That in itself right there is like the epitome of like, yep, that's what they all go through. You know what I mean? Like, and like he said it in there. He's like, winning, you know, like I was winning from like everything was given to me from the get-go.
Totally.
You know, and that only can.
It wasn't enough.
Yep, it never is.
And you see that with all, I mean, like Jim Carrey, right? Like you see like all these people kind of taste it. And I will say, I don't even know how to say it. When I would go home after a night of being celebrated, right? And keep the party going as long as I could, right? And eventually fall asleep and wake up, there was an emptiness that only would be filled by the next party.
Yep.
Right? Like I remember when I was first getting recognized, I was embarrassed by it. It was uncomfortable. I didn't know how to kind of take it because there was this push and pull between don't let it go to your head. Mm-hmm. Be humble. Stay humble, right? Like, but also, God, this feels cool. This is amazing. And over time, I lost the innocence of that and no longer like felt I needed to be humble about it, but didn't even think that way, just desired it. There was like a part of me that when I would then go to a bar, instead of like keeping my head down when I'd walk in, my head was up because I wanted somebody to recognize me. I needed it. And when I did, I was like, okay. You know, and then I could become the person they wanted me to become because I kind of had a reputation.
Like you do that so that you're in your head, you're like, I still got it. Or I'm 100%. Still, the thing is,
I didn't know it was
like,
feeding
I'm still
me.
worth something.
Yeah, because inside, deep down, like I didn't believe I was enough because of the life that I had as a kid, right? Like just not knowing and insecurity. And I don't know if that was because, losing my dad, and my dad wasn't a man of affirmation, and that's not his fault. Like, my dad was awesome, and I know he loved me. But later in life, one of my mentors challenged me around, how do you know your dad loved you? And he asked me that, and I was kind of like, well, what do you mean? He said, well, how do you know? And I'm like, well, sleepovers were the best at my house. Like Christmas, my dad, I was 15 when he died. And even that Christmas, I couldn't come downstairs until he turned the camcorder on. Because up until that point, he still put presents under the tree. I knew there wasn't Santa, right?
Yeah.
So he was really about like doing things. And he was a doer, right? And like, and in his doing, I knew I was loved. And I said that to this guy, John Eldridge is his name, and some people might know who he is, but God brought John into my life, in 2018, and has been a big pivotal part of my growth. But John said, man, Nathaniel, those are great things. How do you know your dad loved you? And now I'm pissed because the memory of my father in my mind that whole time was awesome. Right. And I go, well, I know he loved me because of those things. He goes, Nathaniel, those are things. Did he ever tell you he loved you? And then I had to think about it. And this isn't me beating up my dad. My dad was awesome and he killed it. But what this did for me was it let me look at, was I affirmed by the man of my life verbally? And I wasn't. Only time I remember him telling me he loved me was the day he died. He knew he was going into the hospital for a routine procedure that he could possibly die from. He never told anyone. Like when I showed up to the hospital at 15, getting the call on the answering machine that my dad was dying, like I sit in this stupid room that they bring you right into when you walk in, and the doctor's like, we kept him alive a year longer than we thought we would. And I'm like sitting there like a deer in the headlights. Like I didn't even know what to say to that. You know what I mean? And so my dad knew he was sick, but he didn't want to burden anybody with it, right? But that morning he knew something, and he was leaving at like 5 a.m. to go have this procedure. And I remember laying on the couch as a 15-year-old kid, and it was June 30th, and I was about to have a party that night at my house for the first time. I was 15, going into my junior year in high school, and I was playing varsity football, so I was like, this is my way in. I'm going to throw a party, and he left that morning early, and I heard the back door open, but it didn't close. And I just remember being so freaking annoyed that he hadn't closed the door, and I looked up from the couch, and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's standing there just looking at me, and he's like, I love you. And I just blew him off, man. Like I was a 15-year-ld kid, but like remembering that, because John challenged me around that, and what I started to look at is that had I not understood how the man in my life showed me love, I would have transferred that way to my kids. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know what I tell my kids all the time?
I love you.
Damn right.
Oh yeah, same.
Right? Like
my dad's the same way.
Yeah.
Same. Like I think it's a generational thing,
totally.
right?
And it's not a knock.
No, and we were having a conversation before the podcast, and you were asking me about the whole psychedelic ibogaine. That's pretty much what it all revolved around.
Wow.
Was that, and yeah, it's like I knew my dad loved me.
Yes.
By the acts that he did.
Totally.
Right, but he would never say it. You know what I mean? Even to this day, he's alive right now, and he's got Alzheimer's, which he's become more. I guess empathetic in his more lovey-dovey, but he's still like I'll say it to him all the time, and he's just like, yeah, which I know I'm like
Totally.
I know he loves me,
Yes.
but you are correct. Like to my kids, I can't. I'll never say it enough.
Darn
just
right.
openly like tell them all the time.
And let's get real here. That's called generational sin.
Yeah,
Right? Like there's a real thing like that if we don't do the work around looking at how we were raised, again, not to beat up our parents. Some people parents need to get beat up, right? Like but like we just transmit what we were shown unknowingly. And then that like
and they were just
perpetuates-
transmitting what they were shown.
Right. My
so
dad
it's,
didn't have a dad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and so I want to change the trajectory of my children's life in that how much I'm not going to bat 1,000. Like my kids are going to be wounded by me in some form or
for
fashion,
sure.
right? Like, but if I can lessen that as much as possible, I want to, and I just, it's like doing this kind of introspective work with other good men and looking with, with Jesus going backwards in the story is necessary, right? I don't even know how we got there, but.
I think, you were talking about the guy, John.
John was talking to me about mentoring with my father, but just I don't know.
Yeah,
it's time to be quiet for a second.
Well, when Francesca got pregnant with Everly, our first one, I remember it freaked me out. I mean, because I was first part of my life I was adopted.
Yes,
and so like never knew mom and dad and always felt out of place. And I'm like, oh, man, and I know my history.
Yeah.
And so I remember going up to the counseling office up there and meeting with, I forget his name, pastor there in Dallas, and telling him, dude, Francesca's pregnant. Like, we're going to have a kid.
Yeah.
He's like, congrats. And I'm like, no, like, and I was like, I don't think you understand. I'm going to F this kid's life up.
Yeah. Because I don't know what I'm doing.
And you know his response to me was, oh, yeah, sure you will.
Yeah. That's a given.
Yeah. He's like, you will. It'll be great.
Yeah.
God will redeem it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's like the purpose of, whatever you want to call it, evolution or through time, is you're trying to raise your kids better to be better than you were.
Yeah.
Right. And I think at least from my experience, I didn't know I was, even when I had kids, I didn't know I was doing anything wrong, right? Like the way I parented, because I was like, this is the way I was shown. And I was like, I have great parents, which I do. Like, they're phenomenal, but they're not without their faults, just like I'm not without my faults. And it's not until you get a little bit older and then until I started, following Jesus, that I started being more introspective about the way I do things. And I'm like, oh, dude, I am doing like stuff that was, done to me, which propelled me to do what I did in life, good and the bad. Yeah. So I was like, these are things that we need to change. Like you said, they're generational curses or sins or whatever, people want to label them as, but those can be broken. Like,
totally.
And a lot of the times that's the hardest thing to do is break those generational curses, especially if you have family members. You're like, hey, I'm no longer going to be doing it this way, or I'm going to treat my kids this way. They take it as like almost an insult, like, oh, so we were like horrible. And you're like, no, you weren't horrible at all. But
you're human.
You're human. And like, I'm just trying to do better for, like, we always should. Like, nobody's perfect, but I think that's hard for people to accept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's like this, I'm really defensive. I can be really defensive. Like if I'm like not in a good spiritual place, if I'm not aware and present kind of to the truth of the day. And I think like recognizing and having good men in my life to help me recognize the defensive-ness is like this beacon that I can start to like do some work around. Right. And like, I think like our parents' generation just don't understand that that's a thing. Like that there's ground to excavate in all of our hearts, and the therapeutic modalities that help you do that, the ibogaine, the whatever it may be, right? Pastoral, like that is kind of coming back to this thing we were talking about earlier of like sanctification. The invitation is to understand kind of our story. Like each one of us has a different story, but it's the same story. It's the redemption and rescue of your heart by Jesus Christ. Okay, well, that's the beginning of the story. Like, where do we go from there? And that's what the sanctification invitation is, to kind of go into that and go backwards and go, okay, why am I defensive? Oh, well, man, I have unaddressed trauma as a child that tells me I'm not enough. Well, because I didn't feel like enough because my mom left me. Okay, well, that's not true. She left because my dad and her didn't get along, and she did the best she could with what she had. She would leave my dad to go on the road with David Allen Coe for a decade, which is kind of cool.
Oh, dang.
That's kind of cool.
Neat. But I just, and I think I've dedicated my life the last 8 years to creating spaces for men to sit with God and one another and say yes to the excavation. because the heart work, which a lot of people are doing and have been doing for a really long time with God it's necessary, because, I tell people all the time, my wife and I would get divorced over the dishwasher. Well, what do you mean, Nathaniel?
Or the groceries.
Dude, we talked about the blueberries once, right? Like I would come home and I'd open the dishwasher, man, and it looked like a one-armed, blind 7-year-old was fast pitching bowls into the dishwasher. Like, they're right side up, right? Like, it's not going to get clean right side up, And I'd just like, what are you doing? Like, who does this, And I think Dave encouraged me some years ago, like, man, why does that bother you so bad, dude? Like, it's just a dishwasher, But I started doing some excavation around that. Yeah. Well, why does it bother me? Well, I want dishes to be in there efficiently. Okay, well, why do I need dishes to go in there efficiently? Well, because efficiency's good. Well, what does it mean to be efficient? Well, if I'm efficient, then I'm valuable. Like, as weird as that is to unpack the dishwasher, my frustration with my wife putting them in there, even though she is doing it wrong, okay, shouldn't warrant that reaction out of me. And so that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
But I think we all have those.
File the papers.
These trigger points, man. And like they become these beacons for us to do some work to unpack and break free.
And some of us are more hard-headed than others. Like the three at this table. Sometimes it takes.
Dude.
For some of us, it takes federal prison for life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, I'm going to say this, like, man, this all took coming to the end of myself before I could even begin doing this kind of work. And I didn't choose that. And I wish I could say that, I figured it out. Like, God, like, he allowed me to ride it until the wheels came off, and then I put new wheels on it, and he let me ride it again until I burnt those, right? Like, and I wake up one day and 10 years ago, a little over 10 years ago, sitting in jail. And I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that when I leave there, I'm going to kill myself. And suicide had never been a part of my story. I'd never imagined it. I never considered it. But like, after my MTV days and partying with all these crazy people, and, I went on the road with the Dixie Chicks for a year and a half and Willie Nelson, and I was the MC of their tour. And like, I did all these cool things from a TV and film perspective, but drugs and alcohol were quietly like building up their team around me to eventually like take over everything. And I became addicted to crack cocaine, and within a really short amount of time, like I sold everything, traded everything, and burnt every bridge and built it up and burnt it down again, and ended up going on an 11-year run that would bring me to that morning in jail, and in that 11 years, I did everything wrong. I lowered every moral bar. I compromised myself for drugs. Everything towards the end I said was a lie. I stole it if it would get me drugs. I traded it. I mean everything that used to be so shameful to even say out loud. But I did those things. I became homeless twice in that time period. And so I say all that, like, I can't tell you the hundreds of nights that I would not be able to look at myself in the mirror demoralized.
Yeah.
That I'd done it yet again. But not one time did I consider suicide. But that morning in jail, coming to in that jail for a third DUI, currently living with people in recovery, like going to meetings, lying about my recovery yet again, right? Like I just, for whatever reason, and I've told this story a lot and I'll tell it till the day I die, I didn't know God. He knew me, but I didn't know him. I had some men plant seeds about God during that 11-year period that would be able to sprout that day. But I just remember sitting on that jail cell, and I feel like God came into the jail cell with me, and he allowed the spirit of death to come with him. Because, like, I just couldn't muster up the self-reliance to get myself out of that situation. Like I'd done thousands of times before. And I just knew in an instant that I was going to kill myself. I had never had suicidal ideation, and I believe there is a massive mental component to suicide, and that's a yes. But I also believe there's a spiritual component to suicide that people don't talk about as well. And that morning, like I was going to leave there and kill myself. And that was so real, so unique, so different to me that it scared the SHIT out of me. And I got on my knees in jail that morning, like instantaneously. And I just said, man, God, I don't know if you're real. And if you are, you probably want nothing to do with me. I'm a POS. And I say that story all the time because it's the truth. I believed that. That was probably the first honest thing I'd said in a decade, right? And that's where he met me. And that began this like crazy journey. But I had to be taken
To that level.
yes, before my
To hit
my
rock
like
bottom.
yeah. You know, the stubbornness in me against all the walls I'd built between me and God.
Yeah.
Based off my story, you know?
Gotta hit rock bottom, Chuck.
We relate. We relate.
Oh
Totally.
yeah, for sure. I mean, that's pretty much what I was at rock bottom.
Yeah.
In my life, where
In jail.
in jail, where I found Jesus like for the first time.
So in 18 when you moved here and then you had to go back to finish out.
Yeah.
And they arrested you.
Yep.
And how long were you in jail?
9.5 months. But yeah, and I tell the story all the time. But yeah, I prayed out like the first time ever. Just spoke out loud to Jesus in there, and I was like about 3.5 months in, still like trying to like I can control what's going on, like you know, and especially with the ego of being a Navy SEAL, it's like I'm gonna control what's going on in here. Yeah. I'm gonna take over. I'm gonna take charge. And it just got to a point where it's like I'm not in charge, and everything's been taken from me, and whatever my life, what's gonna happen to me is not in my control because I'm in a prison cell while these people are out there trying to formulate a story to put me away for life. And so I just cried out loud to him, and that was it. Like that was, and I just like you, I'd done every drug possible growing up, and I'm like, dude, there's no feeling like that. No drug has ever done that for what I felt in that prison cell.
Right.
And then like you said, it's an ongoing process, and you're never there. Right. Like, and I think that's the big misconception when people that look at Christians or people listening like to guys like us talk about it, and I think people are like, oh, they have something, and it's like, no, man, I have the same thing you have. I wake up every morning feeling the same. I have bad days. I have good days. I have days I wake up with negative thoughts. I have days that I wake up like I'm going to burn it down today. Like this is, and I have to go to God each morning to mitigate all of that stuff and be like, dude, you have to like be with me today and block out whatever the devil is trying to like bring into my life, because that's exactly what's going on. Yeah. The closer you get to God, the more the devil is going to attack you. Yeah. And that's, I think people have also issues with that as well.
Yeah. Like, man, I'm glad you brought that up because, scriptural says that, and I'll paraphrase here, but, when we are lured into the desires of our flesh, it gives way to sin, which then sin gives way to death, right? And so there is this component of a world that is out there, the Matrix, in a lot of ways, just like the movie, right? Like one of the best depictions in the world of waking up to the reality of the Matrix is when Neo on the rooftop all of a sudden like dodges the bullets, right? And Morpheus is over there with what's her name, and she's like, what's happening? And he's like, he's starting to believe.
He's beginning to believe.
Yeah, like, and that's it. Like there is a concerted effort to isolate us, to distract us, to quiet us, to lure us into the things of our sin. And equal to that and more equal to that actually is that my flesh wants that.
Yeah.
Right? Like
because we're all natural born sinners.
Yes, right. And so like there's this, and I think why people are a lot of people are edgy to talk about the devil and spiritual warfare is some people have gone all the way over here, right, where like there's a devil under every rock, and that's just not true because ultimately it's us, right, that are biting the hook of the enemy to go in there. But to act like it's not happening is stupid. Screw tape letters and changed my life, right? C.S. Lewis writes this book about the demon Screw Tape, whose correspondence with his mentor demon Wormwood on how to separate the Fields family from God. Yep. Right? Like when you read that book, have you ever read that?
No.
That's good.
Dude.
So good.
Read it, please. Like it's a quick read, it's an easy read, but all of a sudden you start reading this idea of spiritual warfare and you're like, wait a minute, that's happened to me. Oh, I've seen where that booby trap's been put in front of me, and the tripwire of lust and this and that, like, and so it's real, and we need to wake up.
Yeah.
Amen.
No soapboxes here.
Do you? I got a question.
Come on.
I wanted to ask it earlier, but you were on a roll.
Sorry.
No, it was good. Like, so when you were in that whole celebrity status, right, and you're meeting all these different celebrities and people, is there one like that you can pick out that actually had it together then and still has it together now, like has not been infected with the Hollywood stuff? And I know that's probably few and far between, but
Gosh, I mean, I met Mark back in the day.
Wahlberg.
Yeah, but this was pre-God.
Yeah.
I met him with the Backstreet Boys at the MTV Movie Awards. But he's kind of a guy that's standing the test of time, right? Like it's interesting to see what God has done in his life from afar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know many, right? To be honest with you, like the ones that have these massive careers from the outside, they were never the ones that were out partying. Like you almost see like boy in the bubble mentality with like a Leonardo DiCaprio or like some of these other guys. Like they were kind of above the fray. Like they could do whatever they wanted kind of thing. And they had the teams around them to kind of protect them to do whatever they wanted. But that industry is so dark, man. Like,
yeah, and that's why I asked that question, because I know they're out there. I know there's got to be at least a couple that have made it through. But
you look at Chris Pratt, right? Like Chris Pratt, man.
Boom,
right?
perfect example.
Dude, he's a guy that like fires me up, man, because he's not afraid to talk about God.
I met him.
And have you?
Yeah, he when I was a buds instructor, I was a first base instructor for the SEALs. He came down with Joel Edgerton. They were about to going to start making that Zero Dark 30.
Yes.
And so they came down and they were like, hey, these actors are coming down. They want to get put through like a day of just like, some SEAL training. And so automatically I was like, no, like I don't want anything to do with it. Don't bring him. But then they said Chris Pratt, and I was like, oh, we were huge fans of Parks and Recreation.
Andy, come on, best character ever, man, with Ron Swanson.
So I was like, are you serious? And they're like, yeah. So I was like, oh yeah, dude. Did
I say no? I meant yes.
But what was cool about him is they showed up, and he was out of shape, dude. He was fat, because it was Parks and Rec days.
Parks and Rec, yeah.
And the other guy, Joel, was decent shape. So we didn't really put him through. We put him through a little bit, but I mean, compared to what we do, it was like nothing. But he was hurting. But what was funny is he showed up, and I'm like, dude, I'm a huge fan. And he's like looking at me like, what? And I'm like, yeah, Parks and Recreation. Yeah. He's like, you watch that show? I was like, it was surprising to hear, from somebody that's like, oh wait, you actually watch that? I'm like, yeah, man, we love it. Yeah. But he was like, probably one of the most, fun-loving, like, authentic dudes. Like, he couldn't pass he was walking, and me and him were just BSing. And I did have a serious talk with him at the end. I was like, buddy, you're going to play, a SEAL, which you are representing dudes that are 6 feet underground right now for giving their lives for their country. I was like, at least look the part, man. I'm like, because you look like a bag of shit. And he's like, for you. Okay, yeah, and he did. I mean, he actually hired one of the other guys there to be, and they're still best friends to this day. That's so cool. But he came back the next weekend on his own and brought. He took me and my wife out to eat and brought a whole script signed by all the Parks and Rec people. Dude, that's
cool.
just like
that's really cool.
That's the type of dude that guy is. Stuff. Just salt of the earth. There was no. That's like, cool. Oh, I'm, this and that. He went out. We took him out to the bar with us and just got him we got hammered. And we had him in our kitchen at my friend's house, him and Joel, and we were having him ad-lib, like, now do this. And they were ad-libbing, like, different scenes, and just, like, we were in tears laughing. Yeah, it was great.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think, I look at a guy like him, man, and just, I think God's had his hand on his life for a while, right, to kind of bring light into that dark world. But my experience of it, man, is it's a predatory place, right? Like, I used to tell people New York was not nearly as in your face as LA. Like New York, for males, the model industry is as predatory as the casting couch for women in Hollywood, right? Like we were kind of talking a little bit about this before, and I lived in a model house in New York pre-Zoolander. So the joke of Zoolander in the model house was really kind of built around like a reality in New York at that time.
Really?
Like, yeah, so my house was, everybody in my agency were the Abercrombie and Fitch guys. So back then, Abercrombie and Fitch, if you remember the malls, like it was these huge pictures of guys on horses, and like it was the modeling game.
Anorexic dudes on horses.
Dude, totally. But as a male model, like that was you made it. And this dude named Bruce Weber was the photographer. Well, there was a rumor that went around that to test for Bruce Weber, you had to take all your clothes off. And that's not a rumor, that was the truth. Because all my roommates had to do that, but no one really admitted it. Right.
Yeah, no one talked about it.
Nobody talked about it. And who knows what else happened. I know that I went on a few test shoots because I was doing the acting thing that was successful, but at the same time you had to make money. And so like I got booked for Target, like when it was starting out and all these other things. But to build your book of business in the modeling world, you had to have a bunch of photos. Well, you meet all these photographers that if they take your photos, then it's like a really cool calling card when you go and test, right? It's your resume.
Yeah.
But, I was totally taken advantage of by one of those photographers who saw my desire to make it and willingness to compromise, but also like frozen in a moment of total embarrassment that like I never told anyone about until I got sober. Like I was on the rooftop in Soho in my boxers, and the photographer's like, let me go downstairs and get some film. Why don't you do some push-ups and get ready for the shoot? And I'm like, cool. And so I started doing that, and I don't know this really about myself because that young part of my life, but I was kind of getting turned on this rooftop surrounded by all these other windows, and I'm in my boxers. I don't know that I'm a exhibitionist, but I'm kind of an exhibitionist. And I don't know that about myself, but I was aroused. I'm up there by myself doing push-ups, and this guy, gay photographer, comes back up, and he kind of sees that I'm semi-aroused, and like he thinks it's about him, and he looks at me, and I'm like, I'm not gay, man, and he proceeds to come and fondle, and I'm frozen, and I don't realize I'm frozen. Like I'm frozen because of it took me back to being 5 years old, where I was held down by this man in this shed who fondled my privates. And at 5 years old, I don't know that's wrong, but I know it's wrong. Like I remember the darkness right now of that I felt at 5 years old. I didn't know it was wrong, but I knew it was wrong. It was so overwhelming, and I felt like dirty, and I couldn't get him off of me. And he was like, touching me through my clothes and my privates. And like in that moment with that photographer on that roof, like I was frozen.
Yeah.
Right. So I leave that mortified of what just happened and never tell anyone, but question like, what's going on here? Like, I have no idea, like, any of my past in that situation. I just know what just happened I wasn't okay with, but it happened. I'm never telling anyone that it happened. I then get, from that photo shoot, a meeting with another man who was presented to me by my manager at the time, which I would later find out from another friend in that same agency that our manager was a predator who was sending us on photo shoots with predatory men taking advantage of all the guys. Didn't know any of this. And the next meeting I had, which I told you guys about before, was this guy, if he put his name next to you, then that's your ticket. And he had done that for a lot of people that the names to. I don't know if they were compromised in any way. I can't speak to that. But I show up to this meeting thinking like, this is it, man. I got to really do it right now. And it was weird because it was 7 o'clock on a weekday at an apartment building on the Upper West Side. I'm like, that's kind of weird, but maybe he's got an office here. I show up to this place, and this guy's a very old man, and he answers the door in a robe. And I just was like, I'm sorry, did I get the day wrong? And he's like, oh, no, come on in, Nathan. I went by Nathan forever. And I was like, okay. He's like, yeah, just come right back to my office back here. And he goes and sits behind his desk, and there's a chair in front of his desk, and I sit down with my sides. I'm going to read sides. Kind of a mini audition is how it was set up for me. And if this guy, gives you the check mark, then man, it's really going to help you in the casting process. So I sat down, and he just sat there in his robe, looking at me. Didn't say a word. I'm like, do you want me to just start? And he's like, well, actually, I would like you to take your clothes off. And I was like, sir, I'm sorry, man. I'm not a homosexual. And he's like, I'm not either. I just like to suck straight men's cocks. And like I froze.
Like, how does that not make you a homosexual?
Like I wanted to, but at the same time, I was kind of like, man, what the hell's going on? I just come off this really bad experience, right? Like this, again, sir, I'm not gay. He's like, I'm not gay either. And I'm like, he's like, are you gonna take your pants off or not? And there was a split second, right, where, thank you, Jesus. I didn't know you were with me at that time, but like there was sanity, and I said, I'm not doing that, right? And he goes, well, you can leave. But there was a moment.
Yeah, I'm sure.
There was a
It's
moment.
that decision point.
Dude.
Like, do I go down this path?
Do I go down this path?
Yeah.
Like, can I get past it? Can I do it? Just suck it up and get through it to get what I really want. And it felt like 10 minutes. It was a split second, right? But, so I just wonder how many times that's happened.
Oh, I'm sure more than we can probably guess that's how. I mean, that's how it works.
No one talks about it.
Because thinking about it, it's like, dude, you know that saying, like, you want to see someone's true character, give them power. Like, let them have power for a day. And so when you have these, whatever, that guy was a guy like an agent or
he was a big time producer.
Big time producer, right? Yeah. So he had massive amount of power, like you said. Massive. If I put my name next to yours, you're golden. And so it's how he chose to wield that power, and he's not probably the only one. There's so many like that.
Yes.
That just abuse, and then you put these people in those situations like you, where it's like, yeah, I want to make it big. I want to get to a point where I'm famous or whatever, whatever your goals are. And so when you're given an opportunity like that, not only are you excited, you're like, dude, this is it.
Yeah.
And then you think it's about to happen. You're at that precipice, like it's about to be signed. And then he's like, oh, by the way, suck my cock.
Yeah,
and you're like,
right.
And so then it's like there's some people that are probably like,
I think more people than not do it.
Screw it. I'll do this and I'll erase it out of my mind.
Totally.
And, money will erase this. And it's like, no, it won't.
No, it won't. And that's where it's like, when I was in LA, like I looked up and it's like every high school prom king and queen moves there to be famous. Like that's really who's there.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so that in and of itself is an issue, right? Like just a bunch of really insecure people, like needing validation.
Low self-worth.
Totally.
I mean, the environment.
Living off the looks, right? Trying to be all that. And then that just attracts the predators, which are everywhere. Yeah. Right. And you hear about these things later. I don't know how the Me Too, all these different things, but then it goes away and it's quiet. And so like you see these certain people speak up, Corey Feldman and all these other people about like, the pedophilia and all that stuff. Like I never saw any of that, but I just know what I experienced. And had I continued, like had not been removed from those situations by God and been in the drug world, who knows what I would have been put around. Yeah. It's just dark, man.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's dark and it's predatory and it's a bunch of he said, she said, and it's a whole bunch of shame.
Yeah, what was that? I just saw Corey Feldman. He said Charlie Sheen raped him.
Did he?
Yeah, in that documentary.
I didn't see that part. I must have fallen asleep.
That's at the very end of the documentary. Charlie Sheen kicks everybody out of the doc except for the interviewer. And it was like, okay, what's going on? And then that's when Charlie admits to sleeping with dudes. He's like, oh yeah, the way he described it is the only way Charlie Sheen could do it. He's like, he was so cracked out, and he was like, and he was a sex fiend. Like he was admittedly just a sexual deviant. He's like, I had everything on the menu, and he's like, and then I just flipped the backside of the menu. I'm like, what's this? There's a backside of the menu, and he's like, I just decided, like, you know what? I'll take one of everything. He's like, I did everything. Yeah. And so the guy's like, okay, so you slept with dudes? He's like, yeah. And then they played Corey Feldman, like on an interview, saying that Charlie Sheen, molested him or did something to him, and he denied. He's like, there people are gonna come out and say things just because they, whatever. But again, it's Hollywood, so you're like, I don't know, like I don't believe any of you.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And I think, I just spiritual darkness.
Yeah.
Like I think we're for the first time maybe in the history of man, like because of the connectivity of everything that's happening in the way and the chapter of the world that we're in right now, I think people are really are starting to see the evil.
I think so.
Permeating. It's no longer as covert as it used to be. It's almost like it's in your face.
Yeah. It's so in your face.
In your face.
Yeah.
And it's boisterous. And then you kind of like, you almost feel gaslit by it in some ways, because then I'm like, is this really happening right now? Is it really this dark? Like, why aren't we really talking about this? Like, and then if I have to be careful of what I watch.
Yeah, garbage in, garbage out,
Dude,
man.
and it's all garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what side of the table you're on, you're watching garbage, you know, and it's all designed to get us into this place of
And social
fear.
media is that on steroids.
Dude, it's the dragon breath of comparison and what I don't have, and like this false sense of community and relationship, and
or it's like, you know, just stuff that drives fear, anger, and everything else in, you know, India. Especially like last week with the whole Charlie Kirk thing. Like, I literally was like, I won't look at my social media for the next 3 days. I'm like, this is, because it's on both sides. Everybody was doing it. And it's like, you're doing nothing but perpetuating exactly what Charlie Kirk spoke against.
100%.
And I'm like, but it's disgusting.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
I was so fortunate that I led a retreat from Thursday to Sunday, and we have no phones on our retreats. It's what I do professionally now, True North. And when that happened Wednesday, you know, my wife called me like late that night, and I was on the Chesapeake Bay, and she's back in Tennessee, and she called me, and she was like crying, you know, like real fear had entered in, you know, to her world because of what happened, you know, and no matter what you watch, it leads you to this place of fear. And I just remember telling her, like, honey, I love you, just turn it off.
Yeah.
Just turn it off. I was like, if anything happens, like, because it was, I mean, let's be honest, like, I don't know if you feel it, but it feels like the country's kind of at a tinderbox place again.
I feel like it's been there for a long time. I feel like it's constantly at a tinderbox. It's just every once in a while someone sparks it and is like, okay, let's see if this thing burns down this time.
Yeah.
And we never get to that point, but I'm just like, I think you also would think we're at a tinderbox if you paid attention, if you sat there and watched that all day long,
Oh, my
right?
gosh.
And the reality of it is, like, none of it's real, right? Yes, what happened to Charlie's real, for sure. And just like what happened to that young blonde girl on the train earlier that week. But all the mess and the mess like surrounding that, or like, you know, people taking to social media, even podcasts or this or that, none of that's real.
Yeah.
It's all of that is just designed to drive you crazy and to make you pick a side and make you hate one side or the other. Yeah. And I'm like, and that's why it's like, just turn it all off. And that's the advice we gave our kids, because we're like, don't look at anything right now, because it's designed to steer you in a direction that's not godly at all.
Totally. Yeah, the political landscape of life and ideology and just all of it, it just feels like it's just so loud right now and so ramped up.
Yeah.
I do see a part of it, though. How many people have you seen? And I mean, just massive amounts coming to know the Lord.
Love it.
And going, hey, we can't rely on the government anymore. Where does that leave us? I mean, put our reliance on God. Yeah. And I now, how much of it is genuine? And I think a lot of it is.
Sure.
You know, I think there's some things that's like, hey, if you're a Republican, then you love Jesus, and it's like, okay, maybe not. I don't know. You know, it's like some of
Since
that.
when was Jesus political?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Like
Exactly.
I think there's a real call to men like us, right? And I'm not saying we're different or special or anything like that, but I'm saying like there's a responsibility for us to be about it.
Yeah.
Right. Like walk the walk, very imperfectly, but like be in relationship with God, be challenging and encouraging one another, right? To confess, man, I am a mess, I'm broken, like walking in a way that I'm in need of God. I need Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. Like I want to be changed. I want to love my wife better. I want to raise good kids. I want to love my neighbor. And I suck at those things by myself.
Yeah.
You know, and like as the world gets darker, we need to be lighter, you know, and we can't do that on our own. And so what you guys are doing with this platform, and hopefully what we're trying to do at True North and different things, is create space for men, man, to be in relationship with God very imperfectly, you know, to wake up.
Well, I notice a lot being here is so many men are so lonely.
Totally.
At True North, is that a big thing that you experience when guys come on the retreat, is going, man, I don't have good men in my life?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I mean, like, look, dude, we've never marketed anything, right? Because of just we don't have the time to do that. And we can't serve the men that are being sent our way. But even when a guy is like referred to me, and then he's in my radar, right? Good news, bad news for him. He's in my crosshairs, right? Like I start pursuing him, and every guy, not every guy, majority of the guys I talk to, are like, yeah, man, I'm just tired. I'm lonely.
Yeah.
I'm just busy. I'm real busy, Nathaniel. Like getting away for a weekend sounds great, man, but I can't really do that right now, right? And so like my like mission is having to like really shift a man's paradigm around some things. Like, yeah, you can. Yeah. Like you can get away for 3 days. Like where your heart is, your treasure is, right? Like like the enemy has got it so twisted in our heads here that like, 3 days away with God is selfish. Like when you have a family to provide for and you've got young kids and you want to be at their sporting events and you've got to work and all those things are true. But like, what does it say to your young children that you're like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to come to the game this weekend. I want to be there, but guys, I got to go spend time with the Father and Creator of creation so that I can really lead you guys better. Like that says a lot more than showing up to the 5th game of the season.
Yeah, and not even wanting to be there, really, or being like a negative attitude. Yeah. So like I get to partner with God in pursuing these guys to hopefully plant some seeds and shame them enough to get there, right? Like just enough, right? But yeah, man, like everybody's lonely. Yeah. Like there are beautiful pockets of men like you guys and what you've got here that you guys are pursuing each other. Like, let's be honest, being in friendships is hard. Yeah. It takes effort. It takes time. Yeah. Right. Being aware, like we were just having this conversation last night I was having it with Andrea, my wife, and it's like to maintain friends at our age, you have to be purposeful and go out of your way and to like make sure you're spending time like breaking away and having that fellowship, whether, it's with a bunch of girls or guys, It doesn't matter. But it's, if you expect it just to like fall in your lap, and I think that's what we live in the past. So I think because, in high school and you don't have that problem because you're surrounded by kids and you're like, oh, I'm with friends all the time. And then as you gradually get older and you start separating a little bit and you're doing your own thing, those friendships or that fellowship's not going to just come into your life. Like you have to go out and seek it. And once you find it, you have to make sure you maintain it.
Totally.
Because it's not on anybody but you.
Yes. Yeah. And it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it. It's hard to like not get it reciprocated. Right. And then I get in my head, I've texted Dave 3 times. He hasn't texted me back. What's going on with him?
You too?
Yeah. Dave, actually, we're here. This is an intervention on how you don't text us.
Your responsiveness times.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know why God does what he does. And I'm learning to say I don't know a lot. And I think as Christian men, we need to be okay saying that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like as it relates to a lot of these guys who aren't believers that come to us and ask questions about it or who have been hurt by the church or don't know what they don't know. Like we said before, like kind of standing up in this place of going, dude, man, we're an ER center. Like, come on in here and join us in your woundedness. Oh. Yeah.
So the True North is the program you run?
Yeah, man. So, I got fortunate enough to be pulled into ministry kicking and screaming. A lot of ways I did not seek this out, and Dave saw the early iterations of me wrestling with walking away from a career that I thought would be in the recovery world and stepping out onto an island of trust that I'm still learning about, like trusting God with everything, and having to be in ministry and depend on him for a paycheck, right? Like, I'm going to be a guy with my hand and my hat out, like fundraising, like the church and like all these different things. But because I had good men in my life that helped me pray through, what we ended up landing on was building a retreat ministry called True North Retreats. And I was inspired by John Eldridge back in 2018 on one of his retreats. And it was like I had done all this backwards work in recovery about my life and started to understand the woundedness of my childhood. And when I went on this retreat and I added Jesus into the equation of all that stuff, it was like he pulled the curtain back and he showed me the architecture of my soul. And I could see the connective tissue of the spiritual warfare and the woundedness and the messaging and the lies and all that stuff. And that happened to me when I turned the volume down and intentionally sought God in a way of like, man, what am I missing? Like, have your way with me. Show me what's up. And so that would, where the seed was planted for me to build a ministry. Didn't know I was building a ministry at the time, but we're 7 years in. And
that's amazing.
It's crazy.
So do you guys accept, like, if people
Yeah.
sign up or like want to go to it? How does that happen?
Totally. So it's kind of word of mouth. We on our website. Again, we don't promote. If you want to get communications from us, you go on our website and sign up for the communications, and then a couple times a year we send out an email that says, "Hey, registration's open for these 4 events, these 3 events," and people can register online, or they can email me to apply for a scholarship. Like we don't profiteer from the retreats. There's a small retreat fee if a guy can pay it. If he can't, we don't care. We've given 59 scholarships this year to guys. Like even if a guy can afford it, and I can tell that money is the reason he's not coming. Like God put on my heart years ago, son, give it away. Right, where I used to early on in the ministry, like these guys got to pay or I'm going to pay. Like how am I going to?
Yeah.
And like now it's just, just get your butt to the retreat, man, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
It'll
dude,
buff out.
Yeah, God's providing. Like I'm the worst fundraiser on the planet, meaning I don't do it because I'm scared. I'm learning. You know what I mean? Like I think I asked Dave one time early on, and you donated, and I thought you remember that check you donated to the ministry, and I had maybe had 3 donations ever at that point. And I put it in, I was so fired up, and I put it into the ATM, and it couldn't read your check because your handwriting. And so I put $150,000 versus, I think it was $1,500. And I was like, oh my gosh. I called Dave. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. I think your account's going to be overdrawn by $150,000. Anyway, I'm the worst at fundraising, but he provides.
So that's where that $150,000 went.
I'm here to make an amends.
Yeah. You paid for our podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm paying for a lot of those.
Here's the deal. Like, man, I want you guys to come, right? Like it's a thing for me where it's God puts people in my path when they're supposed to go. Like every retreat we've ever done has been full and there's a wait list. Like without me doing anything, we just had one with 19 guys that heard about us in New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, flew in from Colorado, from Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just God has helped me learn how to set a pretty table.
Yeah.
And he's just said, son, get them to the table. I'll feed them. You know? And so it's like the honor of my life, man, to be able to do that. But I want to say this. I didn't understand until a few years ago that True North Retreats is not my ministry. My wife and kids are. And when we started the ministry, my wife had buy-in with me, and we said, man, let's trust God. Let's go for it. Let's do it. And I'm a doer because my dad was a doer. And so I took off to do. And I didn't know that I was taking off to try to prove God right in choosing me. Right. So I started, and everything I had was in building this ministry because I had to prove that I was the guy. Never knew that was the case. Right. And, 3 years ago, the ministry 3 years ago was doing the best it's ever done. Like there's fruit that's visible from these men coming having experiences. And I get a call from my pastor in Dallas at the time, who was one of my best friends. And he says, man, Nathaniel, let's get a coffee. I'm like, heck yeah, let's get a coffee. We were in small group together, our wives. And he sits down and he goes, hey, man, your wife wants to leave you. And I'm like, what? Like I'm not cheating on her. I'm not abusive. I'm not all these other things. And, I was super defensive in that moment. And he's like, listen, man, you're missing it. She's the ministry and you've left her behind. And that began this real hard look at myself, at where my priorities were.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was not feeding or leading or loving my wife well. But it was hard to see that I wasn't doing that because I wasn't cheating on her. You're right. I wasn't doing these very obvious things in our relationship. But that began this real inward journey for me that Jesus was inviting me into, and is still inviting me into, this understanding and deeper level of trust with him. And once I started to understand that and do that, like all the things that were taking my time and attention away, ministry related, all of a sudden kind of came into focus that they really weren't that big a deal. She was the big deal, and so I said the honor of my life is God pulling me kicking and screaming into ministry so that I would eventually understand the real ministry, which I do very imperfectly, right? But like it's her and these almost 4-year-old twins that I have. I mean, I'm 70 years old. Tallow butter. Beef tallow. No. Yeah, I'm 49, right?
I was about to say, like, damn.
Beef tallow. What? Sponsor of the show,
Yeah.
beeftallow.com. Yeah. But I'm just saying, I mean, my 48 years is a lot different because of the cocaine abuse and all that stuff. But we've got kids, man. Like, what the heck? And I'm sitting here with you and Dave right now talking about Jesus. Like, what a trip.
Yeah.
Life is a trip.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
So I want y'all to come out on a retreat, and we'll talk about this afterwards.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm down.
All right. Yeah. I've been to a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you just come to this.
All right. We'll talk. Yeah. We'll talk after.
Yeah. we it's not like any other. Yeah. We set it up to. Most men don't do retreats because of multiple reasons.
Oh yeah.
You know, we've tried to address all those reasons.
Yeah, I hate going to them, and then I go to it, and then I usually get a lot from it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, I want control. Like, I want to in like 3 days, but then
Yeah.
It's also the
I
unknown.
never regret going to retreats like that. So.
Yeah, and ours is an invitation for you to just spend time with God, and we'll feed you killer food in between, and you get really good rest, and there's fun activities. And
That sounds good.
I know. We do pour over coffee. I mean, come on, you know, like, I'm a food guy.
Sold.
Yeah. Yeah. But we can figure that out, man. I just thank you guys so much for, man, letting me come on here and
No, it was great having you on, man. It was fantastic job, dude. And you got an awesome story, and I'm still jealous that you got to smoke out with Method Man, Redman, and who was in the front seat? DMX. You got to listen to them all freestyle. I'm like, dude.
and no, I did not freestyle.
But no, we appreciate you, man, and obviously we love the message, and it cannot be talked about enough, for sure.
Yeah.
And we will promote it. We'll put a link down in the description
Sweet.
for people that
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah, next available dates are into January in Tennessee, February in Texas, and then we'll be back on the Chesapeake Bay in May.
Sweet.
We only do four or five experiences a year.
Sweet.
All right, I guess it's time to stop being polite and start being real. We got to go.
Thank you guys.
That was good. That was good.
That was great.
Hey, what's up, guys? If you've been following me for a while, you know I'm a huge fan and supporter of Firecracker Farm. Alex, the owner, is not only an incredible human being, but he makes an incredible product, and that is why we could not be happier that they are sponsoring the Shoot Me Straight podcast. Each guest, when they come in, will get a sample of Firecracker Farm so they can take it back and enjoy, and I can tell you, to each person that we've given it to, they have not been disappointed. You can put these, put this salt on your favorite food, favorite beverage. I've even seen people put it in their coffee. They love it. There's an assortment of heat, so if you don't like it too hot, they definitely have that taken care of with some mild flavors. And then it goes all the way to extreme heat if you like to sweat. So if you guys are interested in purchasing some, go to firecracker.farm. All right, thank you for listening, and God bless.